So in Universal Human Value Session, part 2, today we will talk about path of righteousness and path of virtue. Before that, I would like to just give you some key points about yesterday's session. As we are talking about this topic to have a harmony in society and to create or to have a harmony in society, we will start from ourselves. We will work on our own self or on our own body. So obviously our family, our society will get influenced, and accordingly that harmony or maybe the order in harmony will get maintained throughout. So dear students, as we are talking to have a harmony in society, we will first of all work on ourselves through way of purity or maybe the path of purity. And in that we have seen the some standard points. And the first point was not to injure or kill anyone, not to steal or appropriate to oneself anything which belongs to another, not to speak untruth, not to indulge in too much desire, thoughts, and expectations, and not to indulge in intoxicating drinks, drugs, and stuffs. So, if we follow these set of standards in our own life, obviously we will get foolproof protection from all these things. Which are that things? Covetousness, unnecessary passion, ignorance, the destruction of life, theft, adultery, and lying. So all these standards, set of standards are naturally acceptable to each one of us. And I think we should follow all these set of standards in our own daily life. Now moving ahead, the another point that we are going to talk is about way of righteousness. So which are the various stations on way of righteousness that we will going to explore over here. The first point that we will talk over here, that is about right view. Right view is the first and foremost element in the path of righteousness. Now to understand the importance of right views, mind is the only instrument, isn't it? Mind is the only instrument. In every human being, there is a will, isn't it? That we will call it as a Ichha Shakti. Suppose I mentions one point over here that is about will. And when the appropriate motives arise, the will can be awakened and set in motion. It is possible to train our mind in whatever directions one chooses. And that is the role of right views. Repeating this point. So question strikes at our mind What is the role of right views? So right views are important to understand the existence of happiness, and there is a way to achieve it. This is a role of right views in our own life. If we are keeping right views, understand the existence of happiness, and there is a way to achieve it. So every person has a aims, aspirations, and ambitions. You all will agree with these things. Suppose I mention another point over here on a screen. Each one of us is having aims, aspirations, and ambition. So right resolution is another point on a way of righteousness. So I just mentioned over here right resolution. So right resolution teaches that our aims, aspiration, and ambitions shall be noble and praiseworthy, and not ignoble and unworthy. Just keep this thing in mind. Isn't it? Whatever resolution we are keeping, so we are talking it as a right resolution. So it should be noble and praiseworthy, and not ignorable and unworthy. So this is another point that we can or we should adopt in our day-to-day life. Whenever we are working on any project or any activity, just keep all these points in your mind. Moving further, or maybe another approach that each one of us will agree, right speech. Right speech is very important because that. So what are the set of principles over here in a right speech? That one should speak only that which is true. Another point we can cover in right speech is that one should not speak evil of others. For example, I am just mentioned over here. Don't speak evil of others. Also, we can mention that one should refrain from slandering, isn't it? Just avoid this thing. Also, in right speech, in our day-to-day life, we should not use any angry and abusive language towards our colleague or with, in fact, anyone. Avoid angry and abusive language. Be kindly and courteously to all, and one should not indulge in pointless or maybe foolish talk, isn't it? But let your speech be sensible and to the purpose. So the observance of right speech is not to be the result of any fear or maybe any favor. This is an important point, isn't it? Fear or favor. Means just because of fear, we are talking in this direction, avoid that thing. Just because someone will do favor on us, that's why we will change our language tone, avoid all these things. What is naturally acceptable, what is decent, what is true, just follow that path. And that is a main principle of right speech. So what will be the norm? Miss, the norm for the right speech is not the order of any superior or maybe senior or maybe or the personal benefit of the individual, isn't it? So that is a norm for a right speech. Another important point on a way of purity that we can make it as a right means. What is the right means? That teaches us right behavior. It teaches that every action should be founded on a respect for the feelings and rights of others, and accordingly we should behave. Isn't it? Every action should be founded on a respect for the feelings and rights of others. That is called as a right means. So obviously you will ask, what is the norm for right means? So the norm is that our course of conduct, which is most in a harmony with the fundamental laws of existence. This is an important point over here. Right means our action should be in an alignment with the fundamental laws of existence. And when our action are in harmony with these fundamental laws, they may be taken to be in accordance with the right means. As you know, there are human order, animal order, plant order in this universe. So our every action should treat every order with respect and caring. That is a takeaway of right means. As a human order, you know, we interact with each other, pour respect in that. I agree. There will be disagreement on a certain opinions or decisions amongst ourselves, but have a right approach to convince each other. That is the perfect behavior and in an alignment with the fundamental laws of existence. Also, you will agree that taking care of plants and animals in surrounding protects our environment and maintain the balance. And these things we all are learning from our school days, isn't it? Now, recent example is of our Uttarakhand calamity. If you are watching news, that glacier burst, and if you read the literature related to Uttarakhand calamity, you will observe this calamity has occurred due to human only, or maybe this is a human induced calamity, isn't it? Unofficial encroachment in that area, whatever the natural flows of the rivers are getting blocked due to the various infrastructure projects. So obviously we all are responsible to disturb the harmony in a society. So there is a natural law of existence, for example कुदरत का कानून हम बोलते हैं, isn't it? So if we, or if our activity or action is against the law, so obviously we will get wrong effects on the surroundings or maybe on ourselves. So obviously you will not get fruits of right means or right action immediately. Now we feel number of times I am behaving very properly, or my overall conduct is very good, that we will introspect or we will evaluate our own self, And question strikes our mind, but I am not getting proper fruit of all these things. Then what is the use to maintain this path of purity, or to inculcate the values of path of purity, or maybe path of righteousness? I am not getting any fruit. So such kind of our mind state will be there. But here I agree that some fruits of right action you will get immediately after your action. But some fruits of your right action you will get in a later stage of your own life, definitely. So I would like to put forward one more analogy over here. Let us take example of maybe, for example, mango tree. I have given this example number of times in classes as well. You have planted seed of mango tree today in your campus or maybe at your location. You will give me confidence that, sir, after a few years, when this tree will grow, abundant mangoes will be there. Isn't it that assurity you can give? But can you say confidently that after 3 years, at a particular branch of tree, at a particular location, you will exactly get this number of mangoes in a quantity? Are you giving me assurity of saying? No, isn't it? So this is applicable to our right action or maybe the right means. So have a right means or action always. You will get a right fruit at a right time. We cannot define that after 2 years down the line, you will get such kind of appreciation or the achievement or maybe the fruits of your activity. Just keep one thing in mind. Follow path of purity, follow way of righteousness. We all will succeed in our own life in terms of overall satisfaction. So every individual has to earn his or her livelihood, isn't it? Earning is very important. So dear students, there are ways of earning one's livelihood, isn't it? Some are bad, some are good. You are observing in a society. So bad ways to earn our livelihood are those which cause injury or injustice to others, isn't it? Injury and injustice. And good ways are those by which the individual earns his livelihood without causing injury or injustice to others. And this is called as a right livelihood. Mentioning over here, this is called as a right livelihood. Our earning should not cause any injury or injustice to others. Keep this principle in your own mind. Because after 4 years of graduation, you will enter in a professional life, earn money. So let us keep right livelihood approach in mind wherever you will land up. Another important station on way of righteousness is right endeavor. जो भी प्रयास करना है to achieve anything, that should be in a very right and perfect direction. Is to make efforts for right understanding to reach the door that gives us happiness. That is called as a right endeavor. Means right endeavor has a four purposes ideally. For example, suppose I am mentioning first point, that is about to prevent states of mind which are in conflict with path of righteousness. So avoid all these things or to prevent states of mind. Because of that, we are not able to walk on this path of righteousness. That we will call as a right endeavor. Another point, or maybe the another purpose of right endeavor, to suppress such states of mind which already may have arisen. Isn't it? We feel why there is a need of right speech. Always such kind of thoughts come in our mind. Then you have to remember the right endeavor, isn't it? You have to suppress such states of mind which may already have arisen in our mind. Another purpose of right endeavor is to bring into existence the states of mind which will help a man to fulfill or maybe the all the actions in an alignment with the requirements of the path of the righteousness, isn't it? Are you getting this third state or maybe the third purpose? We have to align our mind or energy of our mind so that we can fulfill the requirements of the path of righteousness and to promote the further growth and increase of such states of mind as already may have arisen. So this is the importance of right endeavor. To walk on path of righteousness, and for that we have to make effort by making our mind in an alignment with right means or maybe right action. Another important point is about right mindfulness and thoughtfulness. It is required for a constant wakefulness of the mind, isn't it? Watch and ward by the mind over the evil passions is utmost important for right mindfulness. So whatever activity we are doing, be alert and attentive, isn't it? So what is the important over here? Right mindfulness or the thoughtfulness. Whatever activity we are doing, just watch and ward by the mind. And this thing we can only do, isn't it? We are only the security of our mind. Just check over the evil passions, whether we are violating or whether we are deviating from the path of righteousness or maybe the path of purity. And that is called as the right mindfulness and thoughtfulness. But dear students, five hindrances or maybe the fetters which come in the way of a person trying to achieve path of righteousness, isn't it? As we are teaching or learning today, we are feeling this is just a standard set of activities that we have to adopt in our day-to-day activity. But it's somewhat difficult, or maybe the five hindrances we can say, or maybe the barriers, or maybe the fetters they will block, or maybe they will come on our own way and stop us to walk on path of righteousness. And if you observe very carefully, so which are that five hindrances or the fetters which disturbs our walk on path of righteousness? What is that? If you observe it carefully, we can only give these points. The first point is about covetousness, isn't it? Because of this disorder in our own mind, we deviate on a path of righteousness. Another fetter, or maybe the barrier that we can note down, is about ill will, किसी के प्रति द्वेष भावना. So this is a one of the disorder, or maybe a breaker on our path of righteousness. Another point, or maybe another barrier that we can easily make out, is sloth and torpor, alasya or susti, isn't it? So that also affects, or that also become one of the barrier to walk on path of righteousness. Another point is about doubt, isn't it? Shak, that is called as a doubt. This is also one of the barrier to walk on path of righteousness. And fifth point, or fifth breaker that you can easily make out, is indecision, anirnay. So these are the five hindrances or the fetters, isn't it? Covetousness, ill will, sloth and torpor, doubt and indecision. And all these five fetters are present in our own mind. So how will you overcome these things? Or how will you avoid all these breakers? If you avoid all these breakers, you are on a right track of righteousness, isn't it? Moving ahead, it is therefore necessary to overcome these hindrances, which are really fetters, isn't it? And the means to overcome they. How will you overcome all these things? The important point to avoid all these breakers is right contemplation. That is permanent turn. That is permanent turn towards positivity of the mind. Are you getting this point? What is a contemplation? It is a permanent turn towards positivity of the mind, so that you can avoid all these fetters. So right contemplation trains the mind to concentrate and to think of some good deeds and thoughts, and eliminate the tendency of the mind to be drawn towards bad deeds and bad thoughts arising from the hindrances, isn't it? So right contemplation gives the mind the necessary motive power and a habit to think of always well, isn't it? So this is an important point over here. Right contemplation, that gives the mind the necessary motive power and a habit to think of always well. You know, in society or maybe surroundings, we usually come across with the different persons who shows dominance on other and trying to enslave others and making life of others unhappy. Are you agree with this point? So suppose I am mentioning over here one point, so you can just give a reflection on a point that in a society or maybe the surroundings, we usually come across with a person who shows dominance on other and trying to enslave others and making life of others unhappy. So are you, or maybe this is because, isn't it? What is the reason behind that? Suppose I am mentioning over here that men are not righteous in their conduct towards one another, isn't it? And because of that, our life becomes unhappy. So are you agreeing with this particular statement, whatever I am just mentioned over here? This is because men are not righteous in their conduct towards one another. So are you agreeing with this statement? If yes, drop in chat box. If no, you can drop in chat box. Yes, if we are not showing righteous conduct, so obviously the 2 points, one is a dominance and another is a enslaving, that will pop up and life becomes unhappy. So are you agreeing with this statement? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Now, moving ahead, suppose I am asking one more exploration on a screen. So just explore. If everyone follows path of righteousness, you don't think so that will remove all injustice and inhumanity that person does to person? Yes, as of now, 20 students are saying yes, 4 students are saying no. Isn't it? So majority you are saying yes. So dear students, after way of righteousness, we will talk our last point today, that is way of virtue or goodness.
Sir, I was not able to attend the poll. Actually, it just gone.
Yeah, I have just ended that by considering our time limit. I just stopped that.
Okay.
But yeah, but majority the gist you got, na, that is important. So another point that is about way of virtue or way of goodness. So all these values that we should inculcate in ourselves so that our walk become easy on path of righteousness. How is it possible to imbibe or to adopt all these values? If we follow path of purity, if we follow path of righteousness, obviously all these values needed to maintain purity in our life and righteousness in our life, such values are nothing but the virtues or maybe the goodness values. So dear students, the way of virtue is nothing but these are the observance of goodness, isn't it? That is called as a morality, generosity, equanimity. I just mention all these points over here on a screen so that you will realize, isn't it? So which are that values? The first point is about morality. Second point or the second value is generosity. Then equanimity, endeavor or maybe energy. Then forbearance, resolution, truthfulness, compassion, and loving kindness. So we should adopt all these morality or maybe the goodness values. So I will pick up these particular points for a better understanding. For example, morality is what? Morality is moral temperament, the disposition not to do evil and the disposition to do good only, to be ashamed of doing wrong. So to avoid to do evil for a fear of punishment is a morality, isn't it? Means morality means fear of doing wrong. Take an example, for example, traffic signal, isn't it? So generally we stop when red signal is there. But you will observe number of people in a society, they violate the traffic rules, isn't it? Instead of red signal, they are crossing. So this is a question of our own morality. That is a fear of doing wrong things that is needed. Another point is about generosity. Generosity means the giving of one's possessions, maybe blood, organ, donation drives for the good of others without expecting anything in return, isn't it? So that is called as a generosity. So do you think generosity is necessary to remove the suffering of the needy and the poor and to promote general good? Just have some reflection over here. And yes, you all will agree on the same, isn't it? Generosity is important to remove the suffering of the needy and the poor. Yes, majority of students, 100% are students saying yes over here. Moving ahead, energy. Energy is the right endeavor. Whatever work we are doing or we have undertaken or wish to complete, make it in a perfect way with all our efforts without thought of a turning back, isn't it? Take example of any activity which you like most or your area of interest. You work on a particular project with full of enthusiasm and energy and make it complete. And that is the right endeavor, isn't it? And it is needed to become happy and successful in a life. The quality of being patient and being able to forgive someone or control ourselves in a difficult situation makes us stronger and get lesson that not to meet hatred by hatred, isn't it? It gets specified only by forbearance. So dear students, you will experience such kind of situation number of times in your life. Just follow the path of forbearance or maybe the doctrine of forbearance. You will get good fruits. Another important state of perfection is a truthfulness. Already we have seen norms of right speech. So that is one of the point is about truthful. A person must never tell a lie. Our speech must be truth. And resolution, isn't it? Resolution is a resolute determination to reach the goal. Just decide right resolution. Make your mind, give motive to your will. And I'm confident no one can hold you back. Then compassion. Compassion is a loving kindness to human beings. So do you feel the compassion? Suppose I am mentioning another reflection over here. Do you think compassion is a necessary to be drawn to the relief of poverty and suffering, whatever it exists in a society? And I know you all will agree on this point as well. Yes, compassion, karuna is needed. Yes, 100% students are saying yes over here. Then moving ahead, suppose I am asking you another reflection that about loving kindness, for example, suppose I am asking you, or maybe the, do you think love is necessary for human beings? And here would like to add very nice quote on difference between like and love. Isn't it? In our society, we have a preconditioning or assumption that we have taken love as a terminology in a very different way, isn't it? Throughout society. That is a stereotype thinking. But it's time to come up from all these stereotype thinking patterns and give broader perspective. Here I would like to put this proposal in another way. When you like a flower, isn't it? You just pluck it. But when you love a flower, what you are doing? You water it daily. So, dear students, pour love in every relationship, love all, so that you may not wish to injure or maybe to hate anybody. I go further and say, love is not enough. What is required? Required of friendship, isn't it? Friendship is wider than love. Friendship is extending fellow feelings to all human beings, not only to one who is a friend, but also to one who is not in an alignment with your desire, thoughts, and expectations. So friendship is not only limited to human order, but it extends to all living beings of the universe, isn't it? So, what else can give to all living beings The same happiness which one seeks for one's own self, to keep the mind impartial, open to all, with affection for everyone and hatred for none. What do you say? I know you all will agree on this particular point as well. Equanimity is another virtue, that is a state of mind where there is a neither like nor dislike, isn't it? On a reflection, 98% students are saying that love is necessary for human beings. So equanimity is a state of mind where there is a neither like nor dislike. So I just share screen over here. Are you are getting screen? Yeah. So we are talking about important point, that is about equanimity. That is a samabhav. So it is a state of mind where there is a neither like nor dislike, remaining unmoved by the result and yet engaged in the pursuit of it. So do you think equanimity is a necessary for sustained endeavor, even though there is a no personal gain? Suppose I am mentioning another point over here and asking you reflection. So do you think equanimity is necessary? Just have some reflection over here again, and majority will agree on the same point. So 95, 97% students are talking about yes. So these virtues one must practice to this utmost capacity to become a good person, isn't it? And that is the reason that is called as a states of perfection, or maybe the values, goodness values. So all these practice of these virtues must, however, be accompanied by right understanding, and that is called as a wisdom, isn't it? If you see over here, I just close this polling right now. So see all these values, whatever we are talking over here, that is generosity, endeavor, forbearance, resolution, truthfulness, compassion, isn't it? All these values are important. But if we follow all these values with right understanding, at that time only all these values gives the proper fruit, or maybe it is called as a wisdom. Are you getting this point? Miss, I know it's difficult to give answer that the practice of these virtues must, however, be accompanied by the right understanding, that is a wisdom. But as you know, the qualities of a good man are don't evil, think nothing that is evil, and say nothing that is evil or is likely to hurt anyone. What all you say on this? But is doing good deeds blindly without understanding is to be the welcomed? Suppose I am asking this question. So you will say no, this is not enough. If it is enough, take an example of a little baby. Little baby doesn't know what is a right and wrong, isn't it? Because his or her understanding has not developed. What he can do, that baby doesn't know what is body. Max to max, that baby kicks with legs, isn't it? Baby doesn't know what speech is. What baby can do? Anything evil beyond crying. So baby doesn't know what thought is, what livelihood is, isn't it? So the path of virtue always gets validated on a right understanding. So there is also another reason why right understanding is so important and so necessary. For example, there must be generosity, but without right understanding, generosity may have demoralizing effect. Example, funds we collect or donate, some donations as a earthquake relief or maybe any calamity relief, or have a donations in a flood kind of disaster. It's very essential that with right understanding, we are donating for noble cause. And if we are not in a position to identify and recognize utility of donations, then donation without understanding is no use at all. So there must be loving kindness. But without right understanding, loving kindness may end in supporting evil. This is another point. So you all are observing that every state of perfections or all these values, goodness values, that must be tested by right understanding. That is a wisdom. If your friend is behaving unethically and you are showing loving kindness and supporting him or her blindly, then you are in fault because that is not a right understanding. Though you are considering loving kindness as one of the goodness values, but it's not in an alignment with the right understanding. So try to understand exact meaning of wisdom or a perfect approach of right understanding to walk on a path of virtue. So you all are realizing that there must be a knowledge and consciousness of what wrong conduct is, how it arises, understanding of right conduct. Without this knowledge, there cannot be real goodness, though the act may be good. And that is the reason wisdom is a necessary virtue. So, dear students, all these universal human value recognizes the existence of happiness and way towards it. All these values have a hope and purpose. What is its purpose? Its purpose is to understand meaning of happiness with right understanding. There is a hope in it because it shows the way to achieve it. So I just mention one quote over here and we will conclude our session. That blessing of happiness to be attained by a man in this life and on this earth by righteousness born out of his own effort. So in this life, an inward change of heart to be brought about by the practice of self-culture and self-control. So dear students, all these three ways, that is purity, righteousness and virtues, makes us happy. So let us explore on same and imbibe in our day-to-day life and be a role model of your colleagues, friends, family members and society, and maintain harmony in society or maybe overall order of society. And that's all from this session. Now we will conclude this particular session. I was expecting to take your sharing or maybe the opinions on the same if time permits, but it's already 10 o'clock. We should stop over here. Don't forget to give your feedback on a link posted in a chat box over here as well as in your personal mail ID. Great. So have a nice time ahead and all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.